Welcome to another episode of The Mark Medley Show. This is your host, Mark Medley, and I am thrilled to be with you once again. For this episode, I'm really kind of struggling with my word choice because on the one hand, I don't want anyone to get offended, but yet at the same time, it really doesn't matter with me if they do. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that, because this particular episode deals with this whole notion of this do anything you want, however you want, to whoever you want attitude or era that we seem to be in the long run is going to hurt the country, the society, and possibly the world. We're living in a time where just about anything goes, to the point where folks don't even have an issue with whatever it is in terms of the anything that's going. And maybe that's because, and I don't think it's just because of who we have leading us in the country right now, but certainly he's a big part of it. And what I mean by that is our president of the United States, who has this I'm going to do what I want to do regardless of what anyone says or regardless of what the law says, spirit, countenance, and attitude. And what's really scary is there are a lot of folks who support that, which says something in and of itself. The fact that you could be a supporter of the behavior that we've seen, and it's trickled down. You want to talk about the trickle down theory? Well, the attitude of the leadership has trickled down, or it has supported or exacerbated feelings that were already there. So we're in a time where anything goes. Folks are angrier than ever. They're doing whatever they'd like to each other and not expecting anything to occur in terms of consequences. And when consequences are levied, there's a bunch of excuses that are being made. I shared with you, I think in the last episode, I'm not sure, but I know I shared it on my radio show, that a few weeks ago, matter of fact, it was the first Sunday in May, I did the TD Bank 5-borough bike tour bike ride. And that ride had 32,000 riders in it. And throughout that ride, I didn't hear any arguing. I didn't hear any fussing. We rode peacefully together. 32,000 riders riding through the 5 boroughs of New York, 40 miles, rode peacefully together. And one of the questions that came to me is, well, if 32,000 of us can ride together, why can't we live together? Why do we have all this negativity, all this killing, all this hurting, all this raping, all this kidnapping, all this, you name it, the negativity is there. And yet, 32,000 of us from around the world could get together and ride together. So the question I had was, how come we can't all just live together? Come on, Rodney King. How come we can't all just get along? Now, don't get me wrong. We do get along well when it's a catastrophe. If it's a storm, if it's a hurricane or tornado or a flood or a fire or something along those lines that's catastrophic, yes, we do get along. Oh, we're wonderful New Yorkers. We're great Americans. We're wonderful New Jerseyans. We're wonderful whatever. If there's a catastrophe. But anything short of a catastrophe, we are not able to seem to get along. And we're to the point now where just about any behavior goes. You want to curse somebody out on the road? Not a problem. Stick your middle finger up on the road? Not a problem. Get out your car and beat the heck out of them with a tire iron? Not a problem. It just seems like that's where we are. It seems like our standards have fallen so low. And again, the fact that folks can support this low negativity, high negativity, behavior sends a message in and of itself. There are folks who are actually applauding the president of negative and aberrant actions and behaviors that he has displayed. And it's not just him. It's not just the president. We're talking down to the lowest level. We're talking down to kindergartners and first graders who display the same type of behavior, whose parents come in and defend. So we're not talking about just in the higher echelons. We're talking about toddlers who exhibit and display behaviors that are inappropriate and unbecoming, and parents come in and defend that behavior. And it goes all the way up the line: kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, on up through high school and college into our workplaces. And that's why I'm saying, in the long run, as a country and as a society, we're going to pay a heavy price for this. Now, we may not think that. We may think it's all cute and funny games and everybody has their individuality. Everybody's being so unique. But in the end of the day, when it's all said and done, the country, the society, the world is going to pay a heavy cost for where we are in terms of allowing any and everything to be done any and every old kind of way. I'm going to give you a real simple example. One I was having a conversation and a discussion with someone the other day about. Think back in terms of our musical groups, our performers back in the 40s and 50s. Think of their dress. Look how the Temptations or the Supremes or any of those groups, how they carried themselves and how they dressed. When they performed, the men were in suits and ties and polished shoes and well-groomed haircuts and mustaches and beards. The ladies were in ball gowns or in fashionable dresses. But if you compare that to today, our artists today, they are almost naked. And trust me when I tell you, I am nowhere close to being a prude. Nowhere close. I don't want to give the impression that I'm being prudish or a prude, because that's not what I'm talking about. But in today's times, our artists might as well get up on the stage naked. They might as well. As a matter of fact, the way we're headed, at some point, one of them is going to get bold enough to just come out on stage with absolutely no clothes on whatsoever. And then after that, monkey see, monkey do, the rest will follow. But that's where we're headed based on where we've come from. If you looked at those groups, the Marva and the Vandells, and you look at some of the other groups, all of the groups during that time frame, just go back and Google some of the groups in the 50s, whether white or black, whatever color, race they were, they had class. You look at our groups today, look at our performance today, and that's just a simple example of where we are. Now, for those of you who wear tattoos, well, tattoos are not my thing. But even that, bodies painted up, all up and down the arms and chests and neck and face and backside. And just, if that's your thing, that's your thing. But I'm just saying in terms of, that's just like vandalizing or, spray painting on the side of a wall, tattooing with your body. You may agree or disagree. But I'm just saying in terms of, at one point, even with that, you might get someone in the military, a sailor, a Marine, or somebody that might tattoo, and it was always kind of inconspicuous or maybe up on the arm. It wasn't full body length covered with ink. But that's where we are. Just anything goes. Say what you want to anybody, do what you want to anybody, and then when consequences come, a whole lot of excuses are made. Am I the only one that finds it odd that someone who murders somebody fights like heck for their life not to be taken? They can kill someone else and take someone else's life, yet when it's now time for their lives to be taken, or the possibility of with the death penalty or prison or what have you, their lawyers and themselves or them will fight like I don't know what to keep themselves alive, even though they've taken somebody else's life. Am I the only one that see that? I don't think so. But yet, that's where we are. You can do anything you want to anybody and then not expect anything to happen to you. That's where we are. And I say throughout this episode of the Mark Medley Show, we are going to pay a heavy price, or we are paying a heavy price. We have a president of the United States who believes he is above the law. He believes, and this was prior to him being president of the United States, and yet we were crazy enough to elect him, which tells me, again, that that's a message being sent. Everyone knew what Donald Trump was like prior to his being elected. So the fact that he was elected says a lot about this country. It says a lot about the people who supports that, because that means they believe in that kind of lifestyle, that we should be able to do whatever we want, however we want, to anybody we want with no consequences. That's why we're getting what we're getting. I've shared with the listening audience that I took part of my cable channels out, and a part of that was CNN. So I don't get that anymore. So I lost track of what the president was doing. And to be quite honest with you, I don't miss it. Every now and again, I'll tune into the news and I'll see what his latest caper is. But as far as sitting there every day and keeping track of what's going on with Washington every day, once I took that out of my cable package, I lost track of it. But it's just one day after another. Every day is something else aberrant, something else illegal, something else. And we have those in all stratas of life who are supporting that. That says something. So before it's all said and done, society and the country is going to pay an extremely high price. If we're not already in Sodom and Gomorrah, for those of you who know the Bible, you know that whole area of Sodom and Gomorrah. If we're not in Sodom and Gomorrah yet, we're certainly heading that way. Where just anything goes. As one substitute teacher one time said to me, it was like being in a Roman holiday. Not just a regular holiday, a Roman holiday. That's where anything goes. That's where that whole saying comes from, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. He said this is like, and this was in a school setting, he was describing what the student population was like. He shared with me, it's like being on Roman holiday. But that's where we are in the country. We're almost like on Roman holiday. Just do anything. Say anything. Just abuse people and abuse themselves and break the laws. And I'm not looking for perfection, because I'm not perfect. I told you earlier, I'm not a prude. I'm not perfect. I'm none of the above. But there are some things I don't understand why, just sitting back observing why more and more people are not speaking out, rising up, saying something in terms of the direction that we're headed. So maybe this episode will go viral. Because I'm really telling you, it took me a long time to formulate my thoughts, even though I know what I wanted to say, but I got to be careful of how I say it to a degree. Because I'm not necessarily politically correct either. I'm not a prude, I'm not perfect, nor am I politically correct. But at the same time, I don't want somebody to misconstrue what I'm saying or take what I'm saying out of context. But we're in a time where anything seems to go. Right now, we're talking about legalizing marijuana. And we're at the holiday weekend. As I'm recording this, we're at Memorial Day, the unofficial first weekend of the summer. And we make this big deal about not getting behind the wheel with alcohol. And I heard a report the other day saying marijuana is just as dangerous for somebody getting behind the wheel with. So now that the talks are there about making marijuana legal, folks are kind of like, well, you know what? Hey, if they're talking about making it legal, it's legal. So they're sparking up and lighting up and toking up and smoking up and dragging and pulling and whatever they need to do, getting that good feeling, and then getting behind the wheel of a car. See, and this is the danger behind getting behind the wheel of a car, whether it's alcohol or marijuana or any substance. That substance gives you courage and makes you think you're in control of something that you're really not in control of. It makes you feel that you're in control at 90 to 100 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone when you're really not. So whether it's alcohol or whether it's marijuana, it's still a controlled substance that when you get behind the wheel of a car now becomes a weapon. And the ironic thing about that is the driver who is filled or inebriated or filled with the substance rarely is the one that gets hurt. It's always the other person or the other person's materials or their cars or their property are the ones that's damaged. And the person who actually ran into them, while their property or their car may have been damaged, for the most part, their body, because they're so relaxed, because they're so filled with the substance, really doesn't take the hit. So now someone is killed. And then why'd you do that? Because it was Memorial Day. Because it was New Year's. Because it was Halloween. Bunch of excuses. Anyone who's lost their loved one to a drunk driver or to someone behind any kind of substance, they don't want to hear nothing about it. It was the holiday. They don't want to hear nothing of that. They don't want to hear that. And we're to the point now where it's not even the holidays anymore. Back to my original premise that anything goes. Just do anything, any old kind of way to anybody, and it's supposed to be okay. We're supposed to just sit there and accept anything, any old kind of way from anybody. And all I'm saying, and for those of you who are listening, and please share it, we're going to pay a heavy cost if we're not already paying it. whether it's on the United States level, societal level, or world level, we're going to pay for where we are at this moment. I do invite you to visit my webpage, my website. It's marcamedley.com. I also invite you to listen to me live on Saturday mornings as I broadcast on FM radio 88.7 FM in northern New Jersey and New York, and I web stream around the world on gobrave.org. GOBRAVE.org. Again, all the information is on my website. If you go there, marcamedley.com. Until the next episode, be safe, be blessed, whatever it is you need to be, positive, anything but negative.